You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that you've always been on this land. America always had melanated people on it. And guess what? Most of us are the grandchildren of them melanated Americans who built these pyramids and built these cities here and built these empires here, dating back hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, right here in America. Why you think America is not mentioned in ancient history like that? When you go to universities and college, they don't tell you about ancient America. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that the Olmec is the oldest civilization. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you they ain't bringing no millions of people over here. And then once you start finding out that there wasn't no millions of people born here, you start about where all these Negroes come from then. Once you realize that there wasn't no 12 million, 20 million people born here, no 100 million, all that. Once you realize that's false, you start looking around like, well, how we? How? Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So what I'm saying to y'all is you can't tell me your own history. You know what I'm saying? Them 1866 treaty, check it out. Check out the 1733 treaty, Lower Creek Treaty. Check it out. Check out the Coweta and the Cuseta, what they were signing and what that treaty was talking about with trade and things like that. How we lost some of this land, not by force, by trickery. Our grandparents got tricked out of their farms. You know what I'm saying? So so my whole thing is when you start reading these treaties, it's mind blowing. You start realizing, oh, that's how it got set up. These treaties, all of a sudden the freedmen came out of these treaties. The Dawes rose. See how all these things we learn about in history, they all go back to a treaty. They all go back to one of these treaties. Okay? But you could tell me about a treaty that Julius Caesar signed with somebody. Man, you don't get the hell on. You could tell me about a treaty that some Arab dynasty signed. Huh? You could tell me about the Turks and all that stuff, the days and the bays and this, that, and the third. But you can't tell me how our people ended up in the situation that we in. You got to go to a foreigner's a textbook to tell them that you were an African slave lying to you and tell you your history starts in 1619. But when you start looking at these treaties and they start mentioning the description of these Indians in these treaties as Negro de Terra, when you start looking at some of these manuscripts and these explorers telling you that the Indians was mahogany and had dreads and had afros and wide nose and wide lips, that they were copper tone. And then you start saying, well, damn, Grandma did say we was Indian in our family. And you start putting two and two together. You say, oh, well, hell no, something ain't right here. Something ain't right. So all I'm going to say to y'all, man, listen, that if you can tell me about a treaty of another land and another people that had no effect on you whatsoever, those treaties that the Prophet Muhammad signed, those treaties that Julius Caesar signed, and whoever else signed had nothing to do with us. So why are we, and you studying it like it did have something to do with us. But the treaties that did directly affect you, and still you're living underneath that treachery today, and you're still feeling the effects economically, socially, and mentally, and psychologically from what's happened from those treaties, you can't tell me one thing about these treaties. I go up to one of these boys and say 1860s treaty, they have no idea what I'm talking about. But they live in their everyday life underneath the treachery of that same treaty. I go to dude right now and say, oh, 1733, 1715, wars, this, that, and the third. You can't tell me nothing about that, but you're living your life every day underneath the treachery of those wars, underneath the treachery of those treaties. You're living your life every day underneath it. But if I ask you about a foreigner and what treaties they signed, you're going to give me a whole dissertation and write a whole book on it, do a class on it, which has no effect on you whatsoever. But you can't tell me the bloodshed and the horrors that our people faced in America fighting for our survival. But they tell you they raped your women. That's bullshit. They ain't rape our women. They ain't go around raping millions of women. That didn't happen like that. They tell you all this stuff about you, make you feel inferior and weak. And then they turn around and give you foreigners' culture, a foreigner's history. And you jumping up in the air clapping for foreigners. You can tell me the whole bloodline and lineage of the Prophet Muhammad, of his companions, of Jesus, of Moses. But you can't give me 5 of your grandparents. You can't tell me the history of your people right here in America. But you can tell me about a foreign bloodline that you have no ties to, genetically or historically. None. I'm not tied to Abraham. I'm not tied to none of them. I have no relation to them people. I'm older than them. We existed before they existed. Keep trying to tell y'all that. When them people's over there making their gods out of dates and eating their gods, burying their daughters alive, walking around naked around the Kaaba in Mecca, and doing all this other weird stuff over there, and worshiping all types of crazy gods, you were over here building a civilization without no pantheon of gods. You didn't have gods. You were already civilized. That's why when they came, they thought they was in the Garden of Eden. That's why nobody wanted to leave. That's why they all came. The United Nations ain't new. The Islamic world, the Christian world, the Middle East, all that had a United Nation back then against you. Let's do the research, y'all. Let's do the research. See, the United Nations ain't nothing new. They've been started that against you. They signed treaties with each other to come here. Peace and friendship treaties and all that stuff. That was all about coming to fight you. The doctrine of discovery. That was all about coming to America to take our stuff. Let's keep it real. And guess what? Those popes and those Muslims and all that was trying to come over here and unite after they was fighting each other, they all came together to come fight you. They was all melanated, by the way. Yeah. Yep. Okay. That's a whole other conversation. But my whole thing is like, listen, man, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to hear that stuff no more, man. If you can't tell me about your own history, you can't tell me about your family. I mean, damn, how your bloodline not important, but somebody else's is. Literally, guys is teaching their children the lineage and bloodline of the Prophet Muhammad as if, like, they got them sitting in class, their legs folded, learning that. But you ask them same children, who's your great-great-grandmother? Who's your family? What's your bloodline? I don't know. That don't matter. I'm just Muslim. I'm just Hebrew. I'm just that. I'm just this. That don't matter. Then why it matter to learn somebody else's then? They got a whole book on lineage of these Arabs over there. Then why is it important to them? Because I read Arabic and they got whole books on their bloodline, on their tribes. Then why is it important for them to trace it back then and not you? Why is it important for me to go learn their bloodline and their lineage and I don't know my own? Man, that's mental genocide, man. And anybody teaching their children that, their sons and daughters, that shit like that, man, that shit weak. Straight up, man. That shit weak, man. Straight up, man. But like I said, man, I ain't gonna be here too long. I'm down 30th Street Station here in Philly, man. I'm about to go in this library.
What's going on?